others. I remember, for example, being on the swing as a very young girl. And each time my feet would touch the sky, I would basically talk to God. And for me, it was something really natural to relate to him. And I was assured that God was here with me and he was listening. I would also fall asleep singing prayers. And knowing that I had a heavenly Father looking after me, that loved me. But yet at this point, I had no one to explain to me that God is indeed a relational God, and that I can develop a personal relationship. And so years pass, and this thirst of God grows. And one turning point for me in my faith was when I was 19. And I decided to walk the Camino de Compostela. I don't know if you know this one. It's a very long trek, and I decided not to do it half-heartedly because I cross France and Spain during this summer. So it means that I walked 1,600 kilometers a summer, and that was a pivotal moment for me in my faith. That was really when I experienced God being there with me, speaking with me, being there in every details of my life. And this walk was for me at quite an early stage, at 19, quite a cornerstone in my relationship with God, and also realizing that it was a concentrate of what life is, full of unexpected, and also a chance to experience God showing up in many details of my everyday life. And from this point, I really realized how God loves us, how much He cares of every details of our life. There's nothing He's not considering, and He's the one who is reaching us first. That was really something that deeply moved me at this stage of my life. I knew that He was there. And just to give you an example, few examples if you want. So the first one was, it was Sunday, and I didn't have any food, and I was just thinking, oh dear, I didn't realize that it was Sunday. All the shops are closed, and I was sitting there in front of an house. Sorry, that was closed. No one was there. And I was just wondering how on earth I will manage to find food and then to go back walking, because I had to walk basically. And then while I was questioning myself, thinking what could be the solution, a bakery truck just stopped in front of the house, and he came out with 3 baguettes, and he was here to deliver those baguettes to the house that was empty. And he came to me and he said, well, I don't know what to do with those with this bread, and he said to me, would you be interested to have it? And that was like just mind-blowing in a way, just to realize how much God was there and so precise in terms of caring for me at this time. Another quite strong example is, so I was walking since 10 days when it happened, and for several days I had quite swelling ankle. And I wasn't sure what it was, but it was very, very painful, and I could hardly walk in the morning. And after 10 days, I bumped into a doctor on the walk who spoke to me, and she basically diagnosed my situation, saying, well, it's very simple what you've got. It's a tendonitis of both Achilles tendons. And if you don't stop now, here is what will happen. And she described to me quite an horrific situation where I will basically could become handicapped if I don't stop, because my tendons could break. And so she said, the only solution is for you to stop walking. And I was just so discouraged and thinking, oh no, I cannot stop walking. I mean, I'm here to go to Compostela, and I'm just at the start of the road. I cannot just stop now. I cannot go back home. It was a real challenge for me as well to finish this trek. And so I said to God, well, God, that's simple. I will follow the advice. I will not move. I will lay on a bed 3 days, and after 3 days, I will go back on the road, believing that He could heal me. And at this stage, I wasn't so aware that God would perform a miracle, but I also had a sense that God was able to do that, and I knew the scriptures, and so I just prayed boldly at this stage, saying, I believe if you can do that, and please do it, because I really want to go back walking. And that's exactly what He did. After 3 days, I was completely healed, and I finished my 1,600 kilometers without any pain on my ankles. Nothing happens on my Achilles tendons. And reading, I did some research to see what are the pronostics normally to heal from those type of tendonitis. And it says that at least it takes 12 weeks to heal. So it was really a miracle. And in my walk of faith, I would say I've always experienced God before having an explanation of the charismatic aspect of things, if we can say. And so, yes, so coming back from this amazing experience, so I walked 42 days on this path, and my soul longs to remain in His presence. And in this interaction, it was just amazing to see God in action in my everyday life. But at this stage of my life, so I was just 19, still in my traditional environment, and I couldn't find an environment that would help me experiencing the same, basically.
Life Stories.
And I felt like a spiritual desert at this stage, as if God was on mute. And this sense of God being on mute lasted nearly 2 years. But then after 2 years, I met a bunch of people experiencing a more, what we call a charismatic experience of faith. And it felt like a breath, as if I was getting my breath back. Sorry. It was so refreshing, connecting with people who also experience this God who longs for a relationship. And through them and other I will meet along my journey, I was able to understand what I've experienced during this Camino and in different situations in life, realizing how much God is there, how much we can develop our way to listen to God, that He really wants to have relationship with us, and listening to Him is something we learn, and so during this period of time, and I started to grow in my faith. I started to grow in discernment as well, and to understand a bit more about the spiritual reality, and different things I've learned along the way. And so over the years, I have grown in my relationship with God in ever an ever deeper communion, knowing that I belong, knowing that I have a heavenly Father that loves me, and that I can count on him, whatever life brings my way. So that's my life testimony. And so if I jump to what is written below, so Juliette book. So Juliette book is a book I wrote in 2017. So we are jumping into my adult life, basically. So I'm married to Baptiste. We are both French, and we have a son who is so Raphael. And Juliette is our second child, who was born in 2017. But that's quite a difficult story, because Juliette, so when I was pregnant, we just arrived in Scotland in 2016, end of 2016. I was just pregnant of Juliette, and at 20 weeks of pregnancy, we received this diagnostic that Juliette will probably not live after birth. So she was carrying a trisomy 13. That means that it's very unlikely for those children to survive, basically. And so doctors would prepare us about the fact that she will probably not live after birth, and if so, she will maybe live few hours, maybe few days, very unlikely to live a few weeks. So as you can imagine, that was a devastating news for us. That was really shocking, even more as Raphael's pregnancy was going. Like I didn't had any issue with his pregnancy. It was a very easy pregnancy, if we can say. So I was even less prepared to hear that news. And from the start, I mean, the doctors told us that like every doctors would say, that we could interrupt the pregnancy. And we felt that God was giving us the choice, which was, a very difficult question even to ask, like for us. Like Juliette was our daughter from the start, and it wasn't a question for us basically to interrupt the pregnancy, but knowing that God was giving us the choice was very, very precious, because from the moment we said yes to him, and yes for this life, it was a real yes. It wasn't a yes from religiosity, or just because we are Christian and we think it's part of the values. God gave us the choice, and from this very early stage of experiencing life with Juliette, it was really a question of choice, and our walk since with her was choosing. So basically, from the moment we said yes, we received a supernatural joy, which was just amazing. So we were so joyful to have her in our life, even if we knew we will probably not met her alive, but we did our best to connect with her when she was in my tummy, to interact, also to receive from God, and to understand what was her character, and to bless her in this way. So for us, Juliette was a joy carrier. It was clear that was her ministry, if we can say. And we also knew from a very early stage that no matter how long she will live, the impact she will have on earth will be real. And through her, we discovered how life on earth is just a passage, and there's no question of time. And whatever the time we stay on earth, like the whole perspective is also heaven, and life is real in heaven, and we knew that Juliette will be fully alive in heaven, and yeah, it gave us this sense, a deeper sense of how heaven is real. And so yes, so the joy was really with us from the start, which was a bit funny sometimes, because we would have doctor's appointments, for example, and we were joyful to see her on the screen, because basically that was the only time we could see her, and the doctors would be I think quite concerned with us being joyful, because I mean the outcome wasn't very positive.
It's very easy to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Life Stories at Lunch, to receive notifications of when we are live. Simply click the bell.
Positive. And so I remember coming out of one of those meetings and looking at Baptiste and saying, it really feels like she has the worst trisomy 13 ever, because the doctors would insist on the very tragic situation and that she will probably not live after birth, and which I was absolutely aware. And through her and as a couple as well, supporting each other, we find the balance between trusting God that he could do a miracle. We were aware and pursuing and praying for that maybe he will heal Juliette, and that would become an amazing testimony. But we also knew that we also wanted to trust him, whatever the outcome, with a deep sense of like honoring God and knowing that it's not us who has to dictate him, what he has to do. So it was finding the balance between believing the impossible, so like a complete healing, but also trusting him that whatever will happen, we love him, he will glorify himself, and we trust him that he will choose the best for our family and for our daughter. So that was really life-changing to concretely experience that with Juliette. And so Juliette didn't survive. So she passed away at 36 weeks of pregnancy, which was very, very hard to face. But in the other hand, I mean, from like the day she passed away and I gave birth to her, it was clear that heaven was here. Like I experienced something that I didn't expect in some ways, like knowing that she was maybe on earth, it was silent and we couldn't hear her voice. But there were a celebration in heaven that was just amazing. And we were able to grasp that this day, which was really moving, knowing that heaven is real, heaven is here with us, and God really cares, and He loves us in the heartbreaking situation of life. I also knew that God was weeping with me. That wasn't something He wanted for us, in a way. And yeah, we have a God who shows compassion. He really cares, and he's side by side with us. So speaking about the choice, like during this walk with Juliette, we had the choice to fall into despair, basically, and to look at the circumstances and feeling very, very sad and sticking into this sadness. But we also had the choice to grasp sparkle of life in our everyday routine, and it was clear that God was there, but it was a choice to open our eyes to His presence, and maybe not to focus on the pain. But in the other hand, I also learned, the choice to be real. So when the grief happened, when Juliette passed away, grief just hit. It was very hard not to have Juliette with us, to realize, that she will never be with us, that our family, a member was missing, that we will never hear even her voice. We would never see her playing with Raphael. That was a real loss. And from the start, I really decided to be real and not to pretend, not to wear this sometimes this Christian mask, saying that everything is fine and I just trust God and He loves us. And I was real. If people would ask me how I was feeling, I would say, well, it's very hard. And I would sometimes cry, but because I decided to be real, I think I wasn't surrounded by pain. I think it really helped me to find the balance as well with my emotions, and not to suppress the sadness. And so it was able to be expressed. And then when sadness passes, basically joy remains. And so this grieving process. I went through all this process, and that's also what led me to write this book. So that's Juliette's book. So that was written during my grieving process. So I'm very honest in this writing, telling you the whole story, but then the grieving process, how it looked like for me, what helps, what doesn't help, how, and also how God has responded to this period of my life, and how I could see He was there, knowing that He will never leave me. And what I've learned is, I've learned so many things, but I think we have a sense sometimes that God is on mute, or He's leaving us, but He would never do that. That's my testimony. I think also with Juliette, it was so important to stay and to stick in the present, especially during pregnancy, because basically being pregnant, knowing that she will probably pass away, if I would project myself in the future, that was very scary, thinking that she...
Stories.